Okay, so now it's sideways to me. We'll teach Makir. So if he's not smart or not stupid, he can recognize them. Even though it's wrote in front of them, you wrote after this, you could fix them. To keep the series Osaisa Ikaris, since the form of the letter is recognizable, Mishum Meka Mishum Cosmos Shalokusim. There's no problem with not writing them out of order. Yesh Mishomer, Jehuaden Im Chotra, the Ches, the same thing would be by, if let's say the special things of the Ches, the Chotra, the Mala, which is up above, Ein Nogin Zel, they're not touching each other. Okay. Af Ein Nikar Lahedif Binasim. Af Ein Nikar Lahedif Binasim, but it's not very clear. The separation will be Shatin and Gora Shnei Zainin Mutal Lahedvikum. Even though the kid would read them as two Zions, it's mutter to attach them Lahedvikum because I guess the Chotra up above. We'll see actually. Okay. Yesh Misham those to say, income a machlukas rak chiddush din. There's no machlukas. This is just a chiddush din, so it's not really a yesh mishomer. That the ches is different. It's from the Taz. The head just straight. It's not very. Not very clear straight out. Dim hayinik and the head. That if the separation was very clear, but head straight out. Harizud has fraud. If Sida Ikris, Rasmus has already lost its main form, as we said in Sif Katan Kafes. What does that become? It's mutter to attach them. The Inatinuk Murgo Beches Kazek, because the Tinuk isn't accustomed to this kind of ches. The Filo Hamchusher Mikisikuno Yikro Shnei Zayin. Even when it's kosher properly, he's still going to read his two Zayins. So this is not a proof, because the Tinuk doesn't know how to read this letter. Okay. Im Ozio Shel Shem Devukos Yachol Afredim. If the letters of Hashem's name are attached, you can separate them. Devukos, Bein Lamala, Bein Lamata, whether above, whether below. This is from the Pri Megadim. V'hani Milish Nidbuku Asic. There's only one. These are said when it's attached at the time of writing. Avol in bin Bukula Acher. Gemar Aksiv, but if they were attached after the completing of the writing, also the freedom and it's also to separate them. V'ayim Beralacha, look at the Beralacha. Last freedom to separate them would be okay. The Imbo Mishum Isser Mechikas Mechika, there's no problem because of the Isser of erasing Hashem's name. Kimin Shemesakim was essentially fixing with us. Because Shaginim Haya Devukos, Laosios, Acheris, and Bashir, they were attached to other letters, then what's enough read it would be mutter to separate Osi's letters, Acheris, the other ones. Mayhem from them. Bechol Gamni in every case. Bavad She Yizar Shlo Yiga Hasakim Baosa Nakuda Achrona. As long as he makes sure he's careful that it shouldn't touch the knife with that last dot, Hamadabakas and Hashem was attached to Hashem. You shouldn't make sure not to touch the knife for that. This is from the very hated in the Shem of the Shari Knesset Gedolva. And Mashakas B'Shem B'Shasakak Zeh Enum the Ma'ayin Shem. Also he says that it's only B'Shasakak. It's not really true because to someone who looks there. I don't know what he said there. What do you think? It's not true. Osios had Betevos Shenim Chaku B'Kitas. If you have letters or words which have been erased a little bit, Im since that in Mishum Nikr Kokach, if so that they're if their impression is, so they're erased a little bit, but if their impression is so strong, Shatina the Luchak and below Tipe, Shatina who's not a kid who's not very smart and not very stupid, Yachal the Crossum could read them. Most of the Haver Komus Lemons, most of the pass the quill on them. The Hatzi Baksav to make the writing good. The Chedusha to make it new. Lo Havish look considered is not considered not in order. Mm-hmm. So we have to do the Ramachah. Let's do this. Shnimkul Ksas erased a little bit. Pirish. Shahalach me'al osios Ksas sira. Mare, so dial. Then it went from the letters a little bit of an appearance of ink. Shalhem. In betlila haksiva lo haya dial shachar. If at the beginning of the writing the ink wasn't black. This is from the Magen Avraham. Eladom with a love and rather it was a little bit white. Shehuka mariso Shehuka mariso ola adam. That it got weak its form. V'tzarech l'havir leim kolmos, and you have to pass the quill upon them. Havish lo considered, this is considered not in order. Avol b'hayid the Shulchan Aruch lo mikri shlo considered. But this case in the Shulchan Aruch is not called shlo considered. Given shagam achshav aksav hu kosher. And see here now, the writing is kosher. This is from the Beis Yosef. So if the ink wasn't black originally, rather it was a little bit white, it lost its form, or to red, or is red. The Tzarech l'havir kolam, you have to pass upon it the quill. And then havish lo considered, that's going to be not in order because it's a bad lighting right now. Avol b'hay the Shulchan Aruch, but this case in the Shulchan Aruch, lo mikri shlo considered is not considered shlo considered because it still has enough. It's really still readable. And it was good. Kivan shigam alshav akasav kosher, seems even now really the writing is good now because it's still really Yosef. It's still we'll see. Okay. Amasha Moshe Valav, which he has on an inval misham rosh lo is machagos. It's only guarding it that it shouldn't get erased more. So your writing now isn't really writing because it's already wrote. Medavar when Wednesday said kishemiktas seva hadayo kai, when a little bit of the dye of the ink of the dye was staying around. Aval im kafa it's kol hadayo, but if it jumps all the ink, may clap from the paper. V'lenisharak roshim admimos, it just remains a little bit of an impression of redness. Be niyaslada shaladayo from the rusting of the ink. This is from the Magen Avraham. Kishemavir kol mosoleim harizeh kosif shalokasidin. If you pass over the quill on them, this would be writing not in order. Ulefikach im niklaf me miktas orach havav. And therefore, if you peeled a little bit of the length of the vav, ktas dye, a little bit of ink, the nisharak roshim hachalada, and just remains an impression of some sort of rust. Also, Malcolm in that place, utzricha na rosa latinik, and you have to show it latinik, and yish bechelik ha'elyon shir vav. if the top part has a vav, because the bottom part is no good. The bottom part is rust. Top part of it is not okay. You have to cover the bottom part. Because the kid shouldn't combine that to the top part and say, oh, that little rusty part and the top part is okay. So that looks like a vav, yeah. But that really rusty part is no good. It's writing. The dummy is the mashik is having the loan. Some we wrote earlier, but Simon Kaf Besef Cotton Memches and so Cotton Memches. The Dow Shnofer. There's a thousand Prima Godam. The opinion of the Prima Godam who da feel nishar mamashos dio, even if it remains a mamashos of ink, real ink. Rakshin Niklaf Shachrus Helion, just remove the blackness on the top. Vinishar Ottoman remains red now. How I should look consider now? I should look consider because it's also no good. No, sir. Don't do that. Okay. The Adam ain't kosher to tefillin because bread is not kosher for tefillin. Aval hasam, aval hasam sober b'chelik yodea v'simin reish tzadivav palik. He argues a lot, and on him, and so he holds the im hashinoy la'ad mimos if they change to being red, who machmas yoshin is because it's very old. Havi hu kosher. This is kosher. Shahari hu nichtav b'dayo because it's wrote with ink. Ulahachi because it was really wrote with dial. It just lost its top. And this is the halacha to be wrote with, was said to be wrote with dial. Lahodos the tzricha he rak likasa b'dial. And this is to tell you that it only needs to be wrote with dial. This is the normal way of most dials because she in when it gets old, yichad meriso is impression, its appearance will get a little weaker. And it'll change a little bit to red. As brown, and it'll become an appearance which is similar to what we call in Ashkenaz brown. Still, it's better to pass over the quill on it to make it black. Even with the names of the holy names, the mutter, it's very close to being mutter. With ink on top of ink. The ink on rachika because this isn't called erasing because you're just increasing the pressure. The if it changes to real red, which is not normal the way of normal ink, normal dio ink, or even just red, I guess the normal red, but just it changed very quickly after being wrote. Ain't the kind of Sefer Torah. There's no fixing for that Sefer Torah. Because it appears that it's not because of the oldness. There has to be that there's some sort of lacking in the ink. It's made from other spices. Well, okay, possible Meikar therefore was possible the whole time. Kilo nichta b'dayo, it wasn't wrote with dayo. V'shem was also the haver of kol dayo, and by V'shem, if it would be the name of Hashem, would be also to pass on it the ink on it. Ayin sham shemarach b'chol zeh milsa b'tayim. Look over there that he's lengthy about this, the whole thing, the reason, thing and its reasoning, why it would be also to pass the quill over Hashem's name. There we go. The berura. If we can. Okay. Makiran Hashem. If you can recognize them, that even though was this going on? So and Daled. If you recognize the letters that are separated a little bit. Okay. Hine, mi pashat in lishna the Shulchan Aruch. The whole in the pashat in the language of the Shulchan Aruch. Muchas the Mairi, ach the nikkel the hedge only that it's recognizable the hedge is straight off half a dozen of separation. Commercial cognitive going to Vicky Vega, as Vicky Vega proves the Chalisha in his Chalisha. The look at Prima God not like the Prima God Bishop of Rambus of Sirius, Osio at the end of his comment in Sirius Osios. Amasha Heavy, a Prima God, and what the Prima God brings, Raya was proof to this from Masha Shakosov, Abbas Yosef, and proved his opinion from what it says in the Abbas Yosef. It's also in the Vav Divya Maskal, Matossi Kosov, and Divya Maskal Maskal. Vadai, you have a mefarad lehedya for sure. If it was to be separated, could straighten out. Anshinira kishnei zayin until it looks like shnei zayin. That whole the rest of that comment. Hamayin yirash the in cloud. When it looks over there, that's not a proof at all. The sham darko the sham hainu taima. There, the reason is Kivan she'in the shenira kishnei zayin. Since it looks like two zayins, bottom of the Iker to Manasseh, it loses it from its main form because it looks like two zions. Ruos Chalak Lishnei Posios, it's one letter split into two. Akasa V'Shulchan Aruch Mikodim, which the Shulchan Aruch wrote about earlier. V'lo Amrina Da Chatotris Mochiach Alam. We don't say that the Chatotris of the Ches proves that it's not two zions. Okay. Mashe'en came Bazeh, which is not true in this case. Da Yidei She Nikr Lahedya, since it's very clear, Hapradas their separation, Lo Avad Adayan, Mimana Iker to Vanasa, it doesn't lose those still its main form, because there's no other two letters it could be. Kolzman She'eno Chaluka, and so long as it's not separated, it's Kolkach, Atshetino Lo Yakir to Vanasa, until the kid can't recognize its form. If the kid can read it, it's fine. Also, according to what we proved, the Ma'ala up above, the Os Shecholak L'Shtei Yosef, the letter which is split into two letters, Ma'iri Dafka V'Nikar, the hedge is only talking about where it's recognizable straight out, Havadas separation, and Meila Mukha, so that's when it looks like two letters, has to be seen straight out. Meila Mukha, the Din Zeh, and Meila would prove that this Din, the Seifa, Ari Gamkim, B'Hakayam, is also talking in this case where it's separated, it's the same thing. The feel Nikol had even if it's recognizable straight out, Mahani Tinok would still have the Tinok in Tikkun regards to fixing it because it doesn't look like two other letters. Okay. Mialkain, Balkopanim near the smoke, Al Zeb Shasakak, at the very least I think you can rely on this on Shasakak, the Hakol the Mahani Tinok, to be makel to say it helps the Tinok. Moshe Kasav going to Vicky Veger, as Vicky Veger says, V'Chudushav and his Chudushim. The whole the Kain Lamaisa, he ruled this way in the Maisa. Shatakak in the case pressing need. Mashikazab what did it says at the end of it need Ladian nearly Shum Lashon Ha Prima Gadam, I think that's from the Prima Gadam Sham, the Psicha Sof the Barb and the Psicha at the end of his words, Shemisayim Sham that he concludes over there Vitzarchi and any Imlokain Yistar Atzatma the Natu he's gonna contradict himself Shakasav Shahoda Shahorikin the Maisa that he could rule this way the Maisa. Still, at any rate, nearly if she does, it seems simple. The af hagon of Vicky Vega, the imar hagon of Vicky Vega is more the hifsiko gadol, where the separation is very great. Okay, so whatever, okay, even when the separation is very great, kolka so much so much shenikar the near the end call. Until it's recognizable and can be seen by everyone very far away. This we see that it's lost its form completely. It's no better than mitzadi shekos yud which is wrote as a yud nun. It doesn't help by a tinik for this because it's very recognizable far away. Okay, this kind of thing I found in the Achronim Shavu b'shem Chuvas Panamir, so I say which they bring in the name of the Shuvas Panamiros, Be'elet Be Simon Mem Zayin Shekosov Im Barakok Makirin. If very far away, you can recognize them. Shahu Revach that is very wide. Ve'ena Magil Legof and it doesn't touch the main part of the letter. Oh, okay. Doesn't touch the main bar, it's very separated. The Dasa Beis Yosef is similar to Vav, Berichuk, Arba Amos. According to the Beis Yosef and in similar numbers, that means you have to be four amos away, you can see that, you could recognize it. With Dasa Bach, with Berichuk Aman, with Dasa Bach, if you're an Am away. With Zevade in the small Latino, and this you can't, for sure can't rely on Latino, which is way too far. Avolim, Nizkak, Lechol, Avolim Nizkak, Lechol Mar, Kid Isle, but if you put, if you're pressed, each master according to what it is, on a row in Shahu Alef Shin, we see that it's an Aleph and a Shin. Rakish and Mekarvin Einenu Roan Raza. So we see if, you know, everyone sees this letter as an Aleph and a Shin. If he's pressed, every kind of person like what he is, and he looks at this and he sees that it's a Aleph and Shin. Rakish and Mekarvin Einenu, but when he brings our eyes close, Roan Raza, we see a little bit of a Rabach, we see a little space. The Tina Korah Aleph Shin and the Tina Kereds and as an Aleph Shin Shopper and the Eucalyptus Mochalavat comes on. You for sure could rely on this at the end of the language because you can't really see it. Im Osio Shel Shem, if the letters of Hashem, I'm Mishnah Berura, look at the Mishnah Berura. Vahani Milin Shinid Baku, this is only when they're attached. One to the act, next. Don't be the Bechelik Yeridea, Besiman Kop Eitas, Bukamosha Kasu Shem. As it says over there, Hatam, the reason the Shema. Maybe Allah was like the Torah Sheni. Shalom Beis Yosef of the Beis Yosef. The low boy Mukak Gvil, where you don't need Mukak Gvil, Rak Basic Siva except at the time of writing. When you're Pashit, the Im Mis Hapech, Im Mis Tabik Imas Nasa Hadi. But if you have a subject when, okay. It's a problem if it was at the beginning. If you have a subject, when it happened, the attaching, you also the hafrida, you could separate it mitam suffix vik because now you have a suffix vik. The shemanas would be maybe you're right, it did happen at the time of writing. If you want to say that it happened afterwards, Shem and okay, Shem halacha k'tirat rishon shalabeis Yosef le'el resif tezvav to menagia ein chiluk. Do. Look at the Mishnah Berura Mashakasu. It writes Hani Milish Nidbaku when they're attached. No, the Bihu the Bechelik Yer the Besimon Vav Buku Moshakasu Sham Atam. Okay, so that's the reason. The Shema. Okay, so that's another good with that. And he says maybe the Allah like the second text to the Beis Yosef, right? Okay. So you only need to be surrounded by parchment at the time of the writing. Okay. When this happened, this attaching, you could separate it because you have a suffix sika. Shema nasa basic. Remember this happened at the time of writing. And if you want to say it happened afterwards, Shema lach look at there. It's a reason. Maybe the lach like the first church of the Beis Yosef. The el b'sif tasvav. The Menagia and Chiluk, that when there's touching, there's no difference. Okay. Even those who are mach by suffix speaker, based on mechika in regards to the essence of erasing Hashem's name, you could be makel in this case. The female shekosov sham hanod bihuda, according to what the Hanod bihuda says. The b'mochik makes us oath that with erasing a little bit of a letter, v'dayin nishar tzirasa, but it still has its formal love on it. In kayev misham mochik, it wouldn't be chayav because of erasing Hashem's name. V'rak midirabanan, and only midirabanan. Ayin sham, like over there. Achgav matzatzi came back to Hashem Yisparach. Sefer Yeshua was Yaakov afterwards. Sefer Yeshua was Yaakov. Ayin. I think he's saying to attach Hashem's name. So if it happened at the time of writing, so then if it would be, you need to be separate. You need to be Muk of Kvil even now at the time of writing. When at the time of writing it was attached, we're not sure if it happened at the time of writing, but if at the time of writing it was attached, it's not counted against writing as Hashem's name because it was attached at the time. So according to the second answer, the Beis Yosef, no, and therefore it should be good. And even if you want to say that it was not at that time, and it was before, I'm sorry, it was before, it's fine, now it's bad, so there should be Hashem's name, we're trying to erase Hashem's name. This may not be called erasing, because he still has the main form in it when you erase this. It's only going to be Dirabanan. And also there's another side, that the other side on the Beis Yosef doesn't care about I'm just a little confused. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. It's obviously like I don't see how that's working, but okay. I'm sorry. You should be careful that it shouldn't come in the head of the lamed into the hay, or below nagia, even without touching it. It shouldn't go in there. So it shouldn't go in. Afilu kolshu, even a little bit. Rosh Lamed, the head of the lamed, b'shura shalamala. He meant it to the row which is above it. Buadin b'dalid pshuta. Sorry, b'chaf pshuta with the long cuff. So if it's kedoma and stuff like that, you can't b'shura shalamala, it shouldn't come into the bottom row. But os samech ayin bend into a test or an ayin, kedoma and stuff like that. Kafam and alef. It's from the Let's look at all. Okay. Or into the avir of the hay. Buadin ba'avir alef. The same thing would be if we went into the airspace of an alef, or a top, or a top, or stuff like that. This is Kaflam and Gimel. This is from the Magen Avraham. Makol shekain yishizarm, for sure should be careful. Shleikanish ba'avir dalet or reish should go into the airspace of a dalet or a reish. Shlo yirak a hay k'lakaman. It shouldn't look like a hay with this palm sticking out of it, makes it like a hay. As we're going to say later on. Okay, or inside of the ches. Vuadin im nichnas rosh lama the toch avir shel chaf or pshuta similar if the lama goes into this airspace of a long chaf. Who could the kambus of kavlan base is later on kavlan base. So chuvas marit mi brisk simon class ein sham. V'chein hekel b'zeh hagon b'kiveger and someone's making like this in the kiveger b'kedushav b'diavad. Blown here without touching it. The benegia b'laf possible even if it would touch then it would be without this anyway a problem. Mishum chisaron hakafas kvil because of the lacking of being surrounded by parchment. A mashma lashon the Shulchan Aruch, it's in bashma from the meaning the ink has to be surrounded by parchment. Mashma lashon the Shulchan Aruch is mashma from the writing of the Shulchan Aruch because the cause of sheish lizada should be careful. The dafka lechatchila. The only lechatchila should be careful. Avaloli kuva v'nat v'maka v'diavad. V'hani mili shalom nichnas me'inyan sheyipat. Sheyifse pasei tzuras os alidezeh. This is only when it goes in. It didn't go in that it lost in a way that it lost its form through this. This is from the Knesset Gedolim, the Shem of the Marit, and the Derech HaChaim, from the Hilchos Kriyas, Torah, and the Yalei Rabbah, and Simon Kafam Pei Gimel, and the Shar Ephraim, which we mentioned earlier. And I didn't go into in a way that loses its form. Kagon shenichnas v'rakmad, it just went a little bit in. Avol im nichnas kol kach, but it went in so much so. But in shenishtana tzuras os that in a way that it changed its form. Shetinoch shelo chacham lo kipesh, that a kid which isn't smart and not stupid im nechas lo shita nachlon. And then if you cover the lower row, shlo yehei near a rock rosh alamed, you wouldn't only see the top of the lamed. Well, so you won't see the end of the lamed. Lo yakir os mashu, you won't recognize the letter as it is. So if you cover the part below, and you just have the top, so you won't recognize what end top and the other letter, whatever they're sticking into each other. You won't recognize what that letter is. Havishina tzuras os, it's you've changed the form of the letter. Apostle and as possible. Bagam lo yitzayir botikin. It also doesn't help to use a tikkun mishum shalok sidra. No, sorry, it doesn't help to fix it because it's going to be shalok sidra. It's not going to be in order when you fix it because this is apostle now. It doesn't have the right letter even now. It doesn't look right. It has a tikkun too. Kol shegenim nichnas, and for sure if it goes in rosh alamed b'toch achal daled, if it goes inside of a daled or a reish and veneer hey the apostle, then it looks like hey that would be possible for sure. Meino mol b'zakriyas the tinuk doesn't help with this. The reading of the tinuk. This is from the Marish Hanal. The Marish we said earlier. It doesn't help to have the tinuk read it kogan. Shari nina rosh shenishtana ayidei zelos because we already see that it changed with this to another letter. Okay. If the parshas aren't like fluent in his mouth, he has to write them from inside the written one. He has to copy it over. Shuguris which are flowing in his mouth. And that is the time when he starts writing is mistama, not a baki in reading them. Balpad by part, to write properly. Especially with maybe he'll know how to read them, but he won't know which words should be full with all the vavs and yods, spelling out the whole words, and which words should be missing the vavs and yods, which I just used the kudos. This is from the. Well, it's got to be the Bach. It's from the Bach. Okay, mitoch you should copy over from a written one. Omipia mikra makriya, or from the mouth of someone who's calling it out. They should you shouldn't make a mistake. If some of the parshas is fluent in his mouth, you can write that a few spell peh. Okay, this is from the Magen Avraham. I'm based the Bach. Look at the Bach Shekaza, which writes, still mitzvah namukar is to write every case. It's always used from parchment, so you should always It's better that way. You're not permitted to write it unless you know how to read it. If you don't know this, it's very easy to make a mistake, and he's not gonna recognize the mistake, and it's gonna be a problem. This is from the Lavush. Lam and Aleph. If he's not writing from inside a written, he's not copying over from a written one. You shouldn't write by heart, which is being read to him from someone else. Except if he goes back and reads it or calls it out with his mouth. So you don't write it while someone else is calling it to you. Rather, you have to go back and re-say it, unless you re-say it. When he's writing from inside something which is written, he doesn't have to say it all. You can just copy over A to B, no problem. It's only talking when it's fluent in him. Also, the Oz lo chashin shema yit, and then we're not considering maybe a mistake. That's custom. King custom magan from ve'li rabba the tarts tolo tiksha mehad mehalaha. And you should have a question from this to that. Me Dayoradea Siman Kafai Resha and Dalit Sif base. I'm Primagana looking at Primagana Bishkane Kavanas Hamagaramas intends to Magran. Aval Harbi may Akronim Kolko, many of the Akronim argue all that Umasco, and they conclude that Beholgam Nitzarach Lahutzi Teva Be Mipiv Kodim Shich. Then he has to take out the words from his mouth before he writes them. This is from the oldest Talmud and the Bach and the Shirkin the Gedola and the Grash. Many of them say you do. But the reason the Bach says the Kachi mitzvah Ksiva Sefer Torah Mezuzah. This is the mitzvah Sefer Torah Mezuzah. Kadeshet Hey Kedushas Hevel Kriyas Kol Teva V'Teva, in order that the kedusha of the air of his reading of each word which is coming out of his mouth, then hakora imshachas alosis, which the person reading it just like gets dragged onto the letters. When he writes them on a parchment, apparently that works. All this is a chakila. The diavad ain't nifsal b'kach. The diavad is not possible by this. If he didn't make a mistake, okay. Even if he's fluent, he's really saying it out just to get this kedusha going on, but it's not so important. But it would be possible. So in the base Yosef, Al Pasha Makrat by mouth. Then he person's reading it to him. Even if it's fluent in his mouth also. So if someone's reading to you, you gotta say it over. Kafim Alef. This is from Berura Mi. Hamosh. I don't know. Can't read that on the bottom. Okay, anyway. Later. Go from all I can't read. Who shall go b'fiv gamkein? Vayikra b'fiv, and he should read it by. He should say it over by mouth. Kol k'tev v'tev, every single word. Kodem shich leven, before writing it. Kadesh lo yitan, you shouldn't make a mistake. But kol shgenim who kosev al pav, for sure if he's writing it by heart, believe me, my career without a person calling him, so then for sure again he has to say it out. It's from the Beis Yosef. Okay, Lamed Beis. Mitzarach len yachalak l'mala k'dei gaga shel lamed. You have to leave an empty space above all the lines, in order for a lamed. Sheyu gam heim mukuvim gvil, in order those lamed should also be surrounded by parchment. It's from the Shuvas Real, Simon Kaf Lamed and the Baruch Shamar. Okay. Ulamata geshir beis kaf and nun. In the bottom you have to have enough space to go below the line with the chaf and a nun. Should with those long slabs, they're going to break the line. Make sure there's enough space for them to go down and still be surrounded by parchment. Chilasa v'sofen at the beginning and the end of them. Ain't tzarach laniach klal. You don't have to leave any space. Okay, but at the end of the lines. Haka umihu nogul hasofim. However, the sofim have the minhag laniach tzas mitchila v'sof. Leave a little bit of air space before and after. This is from the Aguda Rokach and the Rokeach. V'tzarach laniach bein kol teva kamale os, and you have to leave between each word the filling of a letter. Claim bein shita kamale shita, and assembly between each row is the same filling space of a whole row, meaning one row blank, one row blank. Ubein kol os malay, and whether and between each full letter, chodasar, you want to leave a hair's breadth in between. So between letters, you want to leave a full letter. Between words, you want to leave a full letter space. And between letters, you want to leave a hair space. Between lines, you want to leave a line. Bein b'sefer Torah, whether b'sefer Torah, kamo b'sefer, like b'sefer Torah, kamo she's spoken b'Torah Yerodei, as clear in the story in Torah Yerodei. But gam tzarach laniach ma'at chalak bein pasuk l'pasuk. You also have to leave a little bit of airspace between each pasuk. Okay. Me'ashitos, you should leave above from the shitos in order to gab go balamed. But here leave the hainu michta beina. This is from an average person's writing. Afilu who kosev rak savkat. Even if he's writing a small writing, he should still leave an average person's writing up above. The halu amru be menachos. Then we say menachos named beis kamali atzba. Okay, let me just get the book here. Okay. Mm-hmm. Kamali Ataba de Sifri. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Persha Rishonim explain what that is. Shukadei Lichtov Gagashal. That's in order to read enough to read the Lamed Hanal, which mentioned earlier. Vim Isa the Yeshkalak was after. It's true that there's a difference between how much you're writing, the size of your write. Ayeshurim, what's the measure? Actually, you could push this off to Bedochak Dagamar Lo Iri Rak because of Xabena. The Gemara is only talking with the writing of an average person writing. Then you have to use an average person, an average lamed. Okay, B'shuta. So these long ones, and then you have to make sure that they also can go below the line. And them plus a little bit in order they should be able to be surrounded by parchment. The reason for all this is she's down in low because when it happens that he has to write them, she low malcolm is that he shouldn't have a place for this, that it should be covered, surrounded by parchment. And some say they have to leave a little bit above above the lamed, below michaf benon. You have to leave as much as a half of a finger nail. Okay. This is only for the chachila. You should leave that amount, but that's not the avid. Klal. Rak mashu lakafas gvil. You don't have to leave any at the end and the beginning of the letter. Just you need a little bit, like just enough that should be considered surrounded by parchment. Very, very little. K'tzas. So they leave a little bit more is the minhag. Hainu k'tzas yosem mekafas gvil. That's a little more than the surrounding of parchment. V'yesh machmir the chachila. Those that are machmir the chachila tzarach l'tchila v'klaf k'dei l'glal. The gal kol parsha to knead at the beginning of the parchment enough to wrap the rest of it into it. So if you roll this up, it's going to be very small. That small bit has to be, if you took the width of that, like the diameter, but it has to be empty space at the beginning of it. Come on, mezuzah like a mezuzah. There's that rule. Os, a letter, katana, between shu yud, which is the small letter between yud, between words. If so, in the b'diavad it's not possible, elim nearest ktevach, unless it looks like one word. Latinach to a kid, which is not smart and not stupid. Shita, one eye between lines. Some say that you only have to leave this space by a Sefer Torah, one line blank and one line not. The Sofrim also have this minhag. They're not medactic about this. They just go one. They don't leave a full line. You want to leave the hair's breadth between each letter. It's only possible if it appears to be what the word is split into two. So if you left, let's say, too much space, it wouldn't be such a problem. It looks like two words. Okay, ma'at, a little bit. Okay. Do leave a little bit of chalak. Where's this? Between each pasuk. And the Gra in his explanation, they prove you don't have to leave airspace more than between each word. The emsa pasuk. If you would in the middle of a pasuk, so too at the end of the pasuk, between pasuk, you don't have to leave any more than that, just that same amount of space. The locomotion cause of the shach, the yordea, reisha and dal tzivka and vav. It's not like the shach and reisha and dal tzivka.